Kia ora, my New Zealand fan base, all three of you that is, and to anyone who knows nothing about this band, stick around because you're in for a treat. Hi people and hello my Chili Con Carnage crew, it's Chili here, the man who produces Iron for My Eyes. I'm doing a 5-minute review on Alien Weaponary's newest album, ORA. And I apologise ahead of time because I am about to butcher the f*** out of the Maori language. And yes, if you are unaware, then Alien Weaponary is a metal band out of New Zealand. And in a very oversimplified statement, I guess they're like the Rammstein of New Zealand. Except they're performing a bit more traditional metal rather than, I guess, the industrial styles of Rammstein. The group largely sing in the traditional Maori language, and the subject matter of much of their lyrics surround the history of New Zealand and traditional Maori stories. However, this album diverges in parts from what is heard on previous records, as a few songs on this album are now performed in English. Not saying that the previous efforts didn't, but more so on this effort than the previous ones. And I gotta say, this is kind of jarring considering of course the previous dispositions. Despite this, the album is actually quite the gem, and like some kind of sweet fruit like a mango, the deeper you delve, the juicier the taste. With each subsequent song we hear from these lads, the more and more obvious it becomes just how deep these hooks sink into my subconscious, until I eventually become mesmerized by the music and I started headbanging to this record without even knowing that I was doing so. Now, if I'm being perfectly honest, I wasn't exactly fussed by the lead singles from the album, in particular 1000 Friends. In fact, I was rather concerned when I got to the halfway point of that track because it felt like the band were just becoming a generic sounding Killswitch Engage covers band. That song is perhaps the weakest off this album. Sorry, but that's just how I feel about it. Luckily, the moment is rather fleeting, and while we are on the discussion of other bands, how good is Lamb of God, right? No wait, I got you one better. How good is it when Randy Blythe is the guest vocalist on your album? Taniwha is one of these tunes and is simply brought into new zones with the inclusion of Lamb of God's frontman as a guest vocalist. And I gotta say, how awesome is it to see this band thrive into the point where they can get Randy Blythe on their song. This is epic, and the song just goes so fucking hard. The longer you listen to this album, the more you are going to enjoy it. As with each passing track, the tunes start to ferociously pound you with intensity. It's almost like hearing a haka being performed by the All Blacks. I had to throw that reference in, being an Aussie who loves to hear a good haka. And to my international fan base, the haka is a traditional dance performed under many circumstances, but typically done before battle or as a welcome or as for achievements in life. For reference, here is a clip right now. How can you not listen to that and instantly think metal? One of the bonuses about Alien Weaponry, in a similar vein to Rammstein or Sepultura, is how you don't need to understand the language to appreciate the music on hand. You can go in completely blind and find yourself enjoying the latest effort by them. Yes, they do sing in English in parts to help make it more accessible, I guess, but they don't compromise for the sake of commercial success on here either. It's like the parts that were in English were done so with purpose instead of obligation. Also, while you don't have to have a degree in the history of New Zealand's history to comprehend the message, you can feel it broadcast emotionally on the songs they present. It's certainly worth going down the rabbit hole as well and finding out about the meaning of many of these tunes on here, as they give you a bit of a rich insight into a country that is much more than a place where Lord of the Rings was filmed. But for reference, I will give a small starting point as for a few examples. The second track, Mau Moko, is about the British Empire, aka the Crown, and how they repressed the Moko, particularly Toi Moko, which is about the preserved heads of Maoris that were shipped over in the 1800s and traded as trophies. But the Moko is particularly the face tattoos that can be seen on the native people, done under traditional methods, and it reflects lineage and of course storytelling. Te Kori is a void state in the Maori tradition, like an empty location where all things merge. Ponaturi are a type of cryptoid creature that dwells in the sea, which can be killed by sunlight. And while I couldn't find any English translations for the song Tamanui Te Ra, I do know that it has to do with the sun god. One of the main differences between Alien Weaponry and Rammstein is, while Rammstein's lyrics have been analysed and explained with lots of detail by the community and band members, Alien Weaponry remain a small fan base with few English translations, and as such it is like an untapped vein into the Maori mythology, lore and historical events. Overall, I'm going to give this album a score of 9 million chilies on the spicy scale, with my favourite tracks being Black and Sky, Te Kora and Hanging by a Thread. I could probably list a few more tracks really to add to that, but ultimately, if you want a band that sounds like Rammstein or Sabaton or, Sepultura, then you will find this band very interesting, and I couldn't really suggest them more highly enough, even if you don't like these groups anyway. This album is absolutely worth a spin, and once again, I highly recommend it. And of course, being an Aussie, I would like to add that I hope that these guys go far. However, I think we would have a hard time continuing the Aussie tradition of claiming New Zealand bands as our own for this group. I believe this is a band to keep an eye out for in the future, and whatever their next album is will be huge, as this effort is the strongest they have put out to date. Anyway, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on the album as well as your favourite tracks, so comment below as always and stay spicy out there. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.